everyone. Thanks for joining me. Sorry it's late. I seem to have broken Zoom. There's that many people who want to join. We're going to break the record tonight. I don't know if you saw Dave and Kelly's Facebook Live that was at 6 o'clock tonight. If you didn't, you should check it out. It's really good. Dave and Kelly, Facebook on Monday night, Q&A on anything accounts related whatsoever. They did kind of say there is a competition to see who's going to get the most people to these revision sessions. I want to win, if I'm being honest. Still waiting for more people to come in. So just whilst I've got you and letting more and more people in, I'll tell you a little bit. My name is Nick Craggs. I'm AAT Distance Learning Director at First Intuition, or Team FI, as we say. I don't do anything other than AAT, and I don't do anything other than distance learning. It's the future, I promise you. And so what we're going to do tonight, these are revision sessions. It's not tuition. It's not in lieu of like a paid for course. So to let more people in. So I'm going to assume, I mean, I'm not going to say expect that everyone is an expert at accruals and prepayments, because if you were, you wouldn't be here. But I would like to think you at least own an advanced bookkeeping or financial statements textbook at some point. So what we're going to do is go through the AAT sample assessments. The reason why I chose them is because everyone's got access to these. And then for those who aren't First Intuition students, they've still got something of value because they haven't got our material. If you did want to buy our material, it looks very nice on the shelf. You do it at self-study prices. Just saying. So tonight, we're going to talk about accruals and prepayments. Accruals and prepayments is, as we'll see, one of the toughest things at level 3, and it's a really, really important subject. It's something that I used to do day in, day out when I worked in practice. It is real world stuff. It's stuff that employers like you to do. Also, you will need to do it if you're working in management accounting. It's really, really important. Cannot stress it enough, but it's something that students do struggle with. So, I assume everyone can hear me. There is a chat box here. If you've got any questions, queries, please type in there. I've muted everyone because there are millions of people in tonight. If you could type in the chat box that you can hear me and I haven't been talking to myself for the last 5 minutes, that would be fantastic. Cool. But yeah, I was a bit worried this morning, this afternoon. I've broken Zoom. There's that many people here. Cool. Right. So that's the first. You can hear me and see me. More people coming in. What are we up to? I want to get triple figures tonight. I want to win. Really important one. So if all works well, let me know. Can you see my screen? If we minimize that, is that a yes? No? Where's the chat gone? See what? Still more people coming in. Admit all. Yes, cool. Zoom's going really slow tonight. It's everyone and the brothers on Zoom. Anyway, so tonight, advanced bookkeeping, 18th of May, my sister's birthday. You don't really need to know that. So 18th of May, we're going to talk about accruals and prepayments. Anyone's got any questions or at any point in time, just ask in the chat box. At the time, we'll keep an eye out for it. Yeah, don't sort of, I mean, we'll be hanging around for questions at the end. Doesn't have to be about accruals and prepayments, can be about remote exams. If it's not about accruals and prepayments, so can we leave it till the end? But if you've got a question about where did that figure come from or anything like that, just shout. You know, we're all friends here. We'll get cracking. Right, let's get cracking. So, jumped ahead of that. So I'm going to move that because that's in the way. So this is taken from the Chief Examiner's feedback. If you don't read that before your exams, you are not doing everything to the best of your ability, should we say. The Chief Examiner's feedback is really, really important for all units. It gives you various hints and tips. It basically tells you what other people get wrong, and you don't want to be other people. So sort of, how do I get in on the computer? You must be in, if you can type in the chat box. So you must be able to see everything. I think everyone else can see and hear me okay. I should say, it On the computer is the same link as your phone. It all runs through the same system. So if you can get that link up on your computer, just click on it again. There is no difference. So I should say, these are all recorded. So if you can't make a session in the future, someone else coming in, you will automatically be emailed the recording. Assume you've all seen on our website the other revision sessions that we are running. We've now added, after great demand last week, advanced synoptic. Going to be really, really popular, that one. Glad I'm not doing it. It's gonna probably beat my record. So yeah, so you can sign up for that. I will put the link in the chat, but it's the same link that I've been sending everyone. If I can get that out of the way. So advanced synoptic's been added. Personal tax has been added. Let them in. So this is the link. If you save it, advanced synoptic. So I think, as far as I'm aware, more people coming in. Budgeting, for some reason, is one we're not doing. Using accounting software, because that just doesn't work. Because you just can't watch someone use Sage because it's boring. On credit management, oh yeah, credit management, I'm not doing that because it's not the most exciting unit, to be honest. But keep an eye out for it. We are adding them all the time. So if you can't make it, register it. You'll be sent the recording anyway. Anyway, let's move it back. I'll get focused again. What we're doing today, we are doing accruals and prepayments. So accruals and prepayments will be task 3 in your exam. And this is taken from the chief examiner's report, and you can see the performance of people, students, I should say, in this exam. You can see task 3 is pretty much up there with task 4 for being the hardest one. Well, what we're going to do next week is task 4. Obviously, it being week 4 of our revision sessions. So these two are the 2 hard ones, and task 5 is the ETB. That was fairly straightforward. We'll just mute everyone. So task 3 is the one that people do struggle with. It's a 19-mark question, which equates to about 23 minutes on this task. It is one that you can go a bit of a rabbit hole with, so I'm always very, very militant with time. Now, the chief examiner says on average that most people don't struggle for time in advanced bookkeeping. However, it is a unit that has the lowest pass rate at level 3, or advanced level, we should say, other than advanced synoptic. So it's not one to be taken lightly, but it's not because of timing. So, without further ado, so you can see here, task 3 is really hard in advanced bookkeeping. I should also say, if anyone's registered and they're a level 4 student and they're doing financial statements, the principles we are doing here are exactly the same at level 4. The only difference is at level 4, it'll be in the scenario of a limited company. So there'll be a few slight things like a debenture loan, which you don't get with a sole trader, but it's the same principle. You will be accruing interest. It'll be an accrued expense. It's just on a limited company. So slight side, task 1 and task 2 of financial statements is loads and loads of level 3 stuff repeated. Can you receive a copy of the past revision sessions for task 2? You can. For task 1, you cannot, because I set it up to automatically record, and I was going in to set up my spare laptop, which I borrowed my wife's, and then I was using my wife's laptop and I didn't like how she was setting it up, so I recorded myself swearing and whatnot. So I paused it, and then I forgot to unpause it. So we didn't have a recording for task 1. You don't want to hear a recording of me arguing about how my wife sets up her laptop. Yeah. Fran has just asked me, just very privately, but it's tell her to everyone. Personal tax is not included in the link above. She's not having a blonde moment. The reason being, when I go on there, I can't see personal tax or indirect tax. That's also been added, or advanced synoptic. I can't see. And the reason being, it is the old version of that website is saved in your cookies and cache. So rather than having to reload the page, Google Chrome were like, well, we've seen this before. This is what it looked like last time. It has now changed. If you open up that link in a private browser, there's a joke in there. I won't go down that route. But if you know how to use an in private browser, you can put that link in there, and it won't bring up forward your cookies and cache, and you will be able to see that link. Or you could just go into your settings and delete your cookies and cache, and then when you go to any new web page, it will reload or have to load a new version of it. And so you'll be able to get the link. But if you can't figure it out, Fran, just email me. I'll pop you the link over. But email me because in 45 minutes I will have forgotten to do it. Kim, task 4, what is that about? Task 4, really good question. Task 4 is next week. I don't really want to spoil the surprise, but it is about control account reconciliations. So basically, you have some errors, typically 5 errors. Some will affect both the sales ledger control and the sales ledger. Some will just affect the sales ledger, some will affect the sales ledger control. And you need to know which errors affects which, and you've got to correct for them in whichever account you have been asked to correct. It is something that takes a bit of getting your head around. We'll see that next week. Cool. For those missing, task 1 is fixed asset register. It's got a high pass rate. If you can't do a fixed asset register, you shouldn't really be sitting an exam. Task 2 is about depreciation, disposals, and Part X's. Relatively easy one, but obviously there's nothing that's a doddle at the advanced level because it's a testing exam. And then task 5, we'll go through it, is extended trial balance, which on AQ 2016 is relatively straightforward now. They've changed it, so instead of you getting the initial trial balance and then you enter in the adjustments and then you're producing the statement of profit and loss and statement of financial position, they do the adjustments for you. It's just a case of not knowing what goes where. I'll mute whoever that is. What are you up to? 75 people. Very good question. It is always the same format when assessed. Task 1 will be a fixed asset register. It will be. There'll be various different things in there. The business might be very registered, it might not. It might have straight line depreciation, it might have reducing balance, but it will be a fixed asset register. So task 3, let's focus on task 3 is always going to be accruals and prepayments, but we might have deferred income, what we call prepaid income. It might have accrued income. It might be expenses. There's a bit of all other stuff, but we'll see tonight. There's all different things, but there will be some form of accruals, prepayments, prepaid income, and accrued income. AAT water bottle. Can't even buy them. Cool. Right, let's listen to me babbling on. Let's get started. So what we're going to do is look at the AAT sample assessments. Now, I thought we'd use these because everyone's got access to these, and also for various reasons which I won't go into, AAT are not allowed to explain their answers. Unlike our amazing material, which is there, you can buy for £35 per unit, where we explain every single answer, because giving you an answer with no explanation is not much use if you can't figure out where it's come from. AAT are allowed to do that because it's an off-qual regulated body, and helping you pass your exams with explanations would be deemed to be training. And as an awarding body, you're not allowed to train because that's a conflict of interest. Anyway, that's the reason why AAT don't give you the explanations for their answers. It's not because they can't be bothered, it's because they're not allowed to. So this is AAT sample assessment 1, task 3. So the first thing you always need to do in any of these questions is get clear in your head. In fact, it's relevant to all the questions in advanced bookkeeping. It's getting clear in your head, what is the year end? If you do not have the year end clear in your head, you will get the question wrong. I guarantee it. So this first one here, task 3A, is quite a relatively straightforward question. It's a case of enter the figures in the table below in the appropriate trial balance columns. It's a debit or it's a credit. You know, you've got a 50-50 chance. Do not think, well, I don't know, I'll leave it blank. If you don't, on exam day, you're there to get 70%. This is not a particularly easy exam. If you have to guess to get your 70%, it's not ideal, don't get me wrong, but it's still better than getting 69 and failing, I promise you. More people coming in. So what we're going to do is work our way down here, and we're going to decide, are these debits or are they credits? And this is where crowd interaction comes in. First one is accrued expenses. So that is not the expense account, it is the accrual account. Do we think this is a debit or do we think this is a credit? I do want to stress it is not the expense account, it is the accruals account. Just while you do that, I will have a drink and show off my AAT wobble. Yep, I'm not going to write the friggin', but in reality, you have to type 815 here, but I've got small boxes. So I think everyone's got that just about perfect. It is a credit. And the reason being that it's a credit is its liability. What we're doing here is reflecting that although we've not had the bill, because we had the bill, we wouldn't need to adjust for anything because we would have debited the expense account and credited purchase ledger control. And purchase ledger control would show that we have a liability in the future. We're going to have to pay some money out. Now, we haven't had the invoice, but under the concept of prudence, we need to show that we're pretty sure we're going to get a bill. So we do an accounting adjustment known as an accrual, and we would debit the expense account, which is this is not, and then credit the accruals account to show that at some point we're going to get a bill. Cool. I think everyone did really well on that. Next one is carriage inwards. So this is what we pay to bring our raw material in to us. Yeah, we go with this. So this is an expense under, I mean, there's various different things. There's like pearls. I don't like pearls. Dead click is far, far better. Dead click, for those who don't know, is D stands for debit. And in there, you've got expenses, asset drawings. And then you've got click, which stands for, well, the C stands for credit. And you've got liabilities, income, and capital. I don't like pearls because it doesn't have capital. I don't like it. But whatever works. If you like pearls, use it. Now, the next one is a tricky one. Discounts allowed. Students generally struggle with discounts. What do we think discounts allowed is? So you're going to get discounts allowed, you're going to get discounts received. That's right. And the way I like to think of this, everyone is correct, it is a credit. The way I like to sort of remember which is which is think about control. Who decides whether you get a discount or not? So you can give your customers a discount if you want. You don't have to. If a customer says, I want to buy this off you, will you knock me 10% off? You can say, no, I'm not going to do that. Whereas you can go to your suppliers and you can say, give me 10% discount. And they can say, no, I'm not going to do that. So discounts received are the ones that you receive, i.e. you are given from your suppliers. Hence, that goes against purchases. Therefore, that is a credit. Sarah, that's a really good acronym. DAD, discounts allowed, are debits. So yeah, you can never have too many acronyms in accountancy. But yeah, discounts allowed is an expense. And the double entry would be, we're going to debit discounts allowed, and the amount that we are letting our customers off would be a credit in the sales ledger control account, because when they pay us, they're going to knock this discount off because they're not going to pay us. So we need to reflect the fact that we're not going to be owed that anymore. Moving on, next one, prepaid income, or how I like to, well, I prefer it to be called deferred income. Is this going to be a debit or a credit? That is correct. It is a credit. The reason being, someone else coming in. The reason being, what that shows is we've had some money and we've received it in advance. Say it's rent or so. Until we deliver the use of that office building, say, that person who gave us that money could ask for their money back. So until we've earned the rights to that money, it's all about rights and obligations. Until that point, we might have to give it back to the people if they pull out, say, if the terms of the rental tenancy say that. So until we've earned it, it's a credit because it's a liability. All the acronyms are coming out tonight. Yeah, you can never have too many acronyms in accountancy. Cool. So that's that one. That's a relatively straightforward. Like I say, don't leave them blank. So the next bit we're looking for, and again, get it clear. Be very careful. When you see these lines here, these green dotted lines, that generally indicates that we're moving on to a completely different scenario in these exams. So don't assume that any information that you got previously is going to be relevant. So again, we've gone for the old classic 31st of March 2007 as our year end, and we've been told to ignore VAT. Road fund license doesn't actually have VAT on, so it's not actually, would have been relevant in reality, but you're not expected to know that. In advanced bookkeeping, that's for indirect tax, which you've not come to as yet, pretty much. So you're not expected to be a VAT expert. It will tell you if you need to include VAT or not. You're not meant to know that in this unit. So it's 31st March 2007. So we've been given the following expenses for vehicle running expenses. And we've been told the cash book shows vehicle running expenses of £9,468. Now that's really, really important. What that means is physically out of the bank account, £9,468 went out. And whatever you do, do not adjust that figure. The reason being is that was what physically went out of the bank account. So if you start adjusting that because perhaps some of it doesn't fall within our year end, your bank isn't going to balance because that is actually physically what left the bank account. Yeah, bank has to be right. When we started off doing, I think we talked about that last week actually. But when we started doing accounts in practice, the first thing you do is balance the bank, because if your bank doesn't balance, something is wrong. You either got something in you shouldn't have, or you've got something missing and you need to go and get it. Once you've started and you've balanced your bank, then you can sort of work outwards, as I pictures it in my mind and no one picture what I was talking about. But when you start with a set of accounts, you start with the bank and then you work. We used to have these working papers from Mercia where I think section I was the bank, and then H was like debtors, and that's where you calculate your prepayments, and J was your creditors, that's where you count your accruals. So you can't touch your prepayments and accruals until your bank's balanced. So the 9,468 went out of the bank account. Never, ever, ever adjust what was paid, because that was what was paid. And then we've been given the following information. Road fund licenses. So we've got a road fund license from the 1st of January 2007 to the 31st of December 2007. And then we've got another, which is from the 1st of April 2007 to the 31st of March 2008. Now remember, we were at 31st of March 2007 year end. So the first thing I see here is that one here is completely outside of our year end. So none of that expense belongs in our year end. So although we've paid it, because it is included in the amount we paid, although we've paid £405 for those road fund licenses, they're nothing to do with this year end. We don't want to show that because that is next year's expense. Now, the slightly more interesting one, if you like this sort of thing, you might find it boring, but it's still relevant, is we've paid road fund license from the 1st of January 2007 to the 31st of December 2007. We are a March year end. So of the £516 that is in our account, so £560 is showing in the expense as it stands. The 1st of January to the 31st of March is right. So we need to leave that. It's not missing from our accounts, it is in our accounts. The issue is from the 1st of April 7 to the 31st of the 12th, 7, X7, we've got 9 months worth, which doesn't belong in our year end. It is in our accounts as we currently stand, so we need to prepay that, because that's going to be in next year's accounts, because that's when it relates to. So we're going to prepay 9/12 of the 516. So that works out at 516 divided by 12. So that is 1 month, and we need to prepay 9. Gives us 387. And then all of the 405 relates to next year. So we want to prepay all of that. So we're going to add that on. So that gives us £792. Is everyone clear why we are removing £387 worth of road fund license? Yeah. Yeah, so it's always, you've got to be quite, the way with accruals and prepayments, I like to think of is it's like, don't get blown about, is it accrual or prepayment? Basically, just think with these types of questions is, have I got something in my account that I shouldn't have, i.e. it belongs in another year end, in which case we need to get rid of it, and then think, have I got something missing which should be in which case I need to bring it in with an accrual. So in this case, all the 405 and 9/12 of the 516 didn't belong in our 31st of March 2007 year end. So we removed it with a prepayment. So we're going to go and see what the double entry to this is. Let me just move my camera out of the way and I can see you. So here is our vehicle running expense account. Now, we've already got the prepaid reversal in the account, so we don't need to worry about that. The first thing I would do is get some marks on the board. The relatively easy one is the bank payment. Remember, don't touch it. So the double entry would be credit the bank because £9,468 has left our account, and then debit the expense. And the narrative would be bank, because that is where the other side of that transaction is. So you can trace the accounts through the ledgers, or you used to do that when it was all paper-based. But we still use that convention that we use the other side of the transaction as the narrative. So 9,000, pen's got a bit funny, £9,468. So the next thing we want to do is put in our closing prepayment. So this is expense we don't want to show, which is in the 9,000, and that was £792. So the double entry of this will be, we're going to debit prepayments with £792. The reason being is a prepayment is an asset, because as at the 31st of March 2007, you've got £792 worth of road fund license that you can do something with to make some money in the future. So you can either use it in the future to deliver your stuff and make some money, or I think you still can, you could go to the DVLA and get £792 worth of your road tax back. So it is an asset. It's something that in the future you could get some money from. So we debit prepayments to recognize the asset, and then we credit, and it would come from prepayments with £792, because we're going to reduce the expense because it's in the 9,468. So we only want to show expense that does relate to our year. So, and then the last thing we need to do is transfer it off to P&L for the year. Now, one thing I should say, I've still got people coming in, if I find my mouse. Here, you'll get drop-down boxes. You're not expected to type it in. You will get drop, and you just got to choose the right one. So we're going to write it off to P and L. So the first thing to do is add up the big side, which is £840 plus 9,468. So the total of that, we'll get rid of that, is 10,308. And then if we take off the 792 minus, gives us 9,000. Yeah, isn't it? £9,516, and that will balance off at 10,308. That's our charge for the year. So we brought in road tax we paid in the prior year to this, the 840, because all we paid in last year, they belong in this year. And then we got rid of 792, which although we paid in this year, belong in next year. Is everyone okay with that one? Cool. Don't get it right. Let's move on. 7:30 already. Like I say, you should get 23 minutes on this. It's not one to rush. It is quite tricky. Right, we're going to look at commission income. So this is income. Do not get confused with like rental income, rental expense, or commission expenses, commission income. Make sure you know whether it's income or expenditure, because if you get that wrong, the question's going to be wrong, because it's all on the other side. So we're dealing with income here. So commission income was accrued of £2,070 on the 31st of March 2006. So what that means is, as at 31st of March 2006, we'd earned commission, or this company had earned commission of £2,070, but he hadn't invoiced it as yet. So he wanted to recognise that commission. More people join us. Recognise that commission last year. We've not earned that £2,070 this year. We might get paid it this year, but we don't want to recognise it. So the reversal of the accrual will be on the first day of this financial year, which is the 1st of April X6. And the reversal of this, in fact, let's ask you, what's it going to be? It's a debit or it's a credit. Remember, it's income that we don't want to show. What do we do? What do we enter, either a debit or a credit, to reduce income? Think back to click. If income is a credit, what do we do to reduce it? Because that's right, it's all a debit. Because we're going to get paid it this year, but we can't recognise it. We recognised it last year. So we debit the commission income account. So when that 2070 comes in, the bookkeeper, who doesn't generally make any accounting adjustments, will just go, right, we've got some money in the bank account. Debit the bank with 2070, credit commission with 2070. So we now got a credit of 2070 in the commission account. So when we reverse it with 2070, we've got a debit. So the debit will balance with the credit. So in effect, we'll have no figure in our commission account because we not recognise that income, which is right. However, the bank will have a debit of 2070 because it's right. We got the money. The bank must be right. So we can then move on to the question. So the cash book shows receipts for commission of £42,805. And then commission for the month ended 31st of March 2007, which is in our year, was received afterwards. So the 1,960 belongs in this year. It was received after. It's not part of the 42,805. So the opening adjustment will reduce. So we're going to take off 2,070 because we don't want to show that, even though we got paid it. And then the closing adjustment, although we've not got paid it, or in this year, we were doing the following year, 1,960, we do want to show. So if we add them up, we would get, so 40,805 minus 2,070 plus 1,960 gives us £42,695. Is that okay? Is everyone okay with that? Because that's the other way around with income. But the principles are just the same. We're just moving income from one year to another that shouldn't be there and bringing in income that we haven't got that we should have. So the last little bit is a bit of ethics in here. You can't avoid ethics. So your junior colleague has asked, why are we including the receipt dated the 15th of April, considering it's after our year end? Which of the following is an acceptable reason? So are we want to do it because the proprietor wants us to increase the profit? Not a chance. Won't be doing that. You want to go appear in the disciplinary page of the AAT magazine. The next one is the attraction is an expense relevant to the period ended 31st March. Do not fall for that because it is relevant to the period 31st March 2007, but is not an expense. It is income, so we can't have that. Now, the figure, however, will be a current asset because we will debit accrued income because we're going to get that money in the future and within 12 months, therefore it's current, and then we will credit income to show we have it. So it is an acceptable reason. So what did everyone think to mock one? Achievable? Have a go at it? Or is it just debits and credits flying around my head? It is a bit fiddly, and sometimes you get questions where you've got like an opening accrual and a closing prepayment, which is quite tricky, and it's also quite unrealistic. You don't need to know this, but typically, yeah, don't panic. Don't panic. Obviously, the information's there, make sure you read it. But typically, if you've got a closing accrual 1 year, you're going to get a closing accrual the following year. So, for example, like your electric bill. If your electric bill comes every 3 months and it comes 2 months after your year end, the odds are the following year it's going to come 2 months after your year end. Now, as a slight aside, you definitely don't need to do this exam. In the exam, you'll be told the figures. But what sometimes happens in practice is if you're preparing a set of accounts very soon after the year end, what you can do is look at the previous year's accrual and base it on that, because it's only an estimation. You know, when your bill actually comes, it might be slightly out, but it'll get caught up in the following year. But in the exam, you will be told what the figures are to be able to calculate them. You don't have to sort of do an estimation because sometimes the bill might not come for several months and you're going for a bank loan or something like that. Yeah, Part D is tricky because it's the other way around. Most questions you'll see written are about accrued expenses, but there is absolutely no reason to discount the fact that you could very well get prepaid or accrued income. I like the term deferred income. Sometimes you see it referred to that because it's better, but AAT like to mix up terminology in this unit, shall we say. Cool. Let's move on to mock 2, which obviously is different layout. It's different questions, but you can see here it is accruals and prepayments again. So the first thing you need to do is get clear in your head. It is a 31st of March 2007 year end. Again, we can ignore VAT. In fact, I'm going to throw it out there that you can ignore VAT in these questions every single time. 100% I'm certain you will not have to count for anything to do with VAT in accruals and prepayments question, because that would be awful. So let's move my little chat box out the way. We are looking at rental income for the year, more income, just to be awkward. Coming in, move that over there. So the cash book, so that physically what was received, so it's received, it's money in, shows receipts for rental income for £25,550. And that includes £2,720 for the period 1st of April 2007 to the 30th of April 2007. We were March year end. So we're pretty much sure that all of that doesn't belong in our year end. So we have received it because it was in the 25,550, but we don't want to show it. So that's the information we're given. Now we've been asked to update the rental account. Now, those of you who are cheating and got the model answers open in front of you will see that AAT have the 2,720 on the next line. I disagree. You do things in chronological order. So the first thing you would have in is prepaid income, because that would be done on the first day of the financial year. The reversal would be on the 1st of April 2007. Then you would update the rental income account for the money received. So we're going to enter that. So that would happen during the year. You probably won't get it all in one lump sum on the 31st of March 2007. So this would come from the bank. And remember, it is money received. So we debit the bank because we've got more money, because we've got an increase of an asset, and credit the rental income account with £25,550. I'm going to move my camera because you're in my way. So we do that. Then, I'll move that so I can see that. The next bit is the £2,720. That's included in the 25,720, but that relates to the next period. So, is that going to be money that we've earned or money that we owe? Sarah's had a good stab at that. So are we going to debit our rental income account, or are we going to credit it? And yeah, Alexander's right, we owe it. So what's happened is, during the year, we've received £2,720 for the use of whatever this is in April. Now, we haven't delivered that by the end of the year. By the 31st of March, we haven't given the use of that building. Let's say it's a building. So potentially, at the 31st of March, they could go, actually, we're coming out of our rental agreement, I want money back. And we may have to pay the £720 back. So it's not until the 30th of April 2007 that we've delivered it that we can recognise we've earned that money. So we're going to credit prepaid income or deferred income. That's the liability, as Alexandra said, quite right, we owe it. And then we debit the rental account because we don't want to show it this year. So we debit it. I'm going to go with deferred income because it's nicer, I think. So that's the other account, and that would be 2,720. And then we'd balance it off, because it would balance off at that. So it would be, we calculate 2,430 plus 2,500 balances off at 27,930. But then we take off the amount that we don't want to show, the 2,720, leaves us with, that's going to go to the P and L, and that's going to be 25,000. A pen nib is falling off. £25,210. 25,000, and that would always update your totals because you get marks of that £27,930. So what we've done is deferred that £2,720. Is everyone okay with that? Where's my mouse gone? Yes, no, maybe. Cool. Cool. If I made a calculator, 2430 plus 25. I've got £50 missing. 25,050. I put 500. I missed 50 quid off. Less 2720 does give us that amount. So 2430 plus the 25,550, not 500, gives us 27,980. And then we've got the 2,720 minus 2,720 just gives us 2,000. And there'll be an extra £60 on there. See, I'm not just typing out the answers. I am working it out. £2,260. And that would balance off at 80. Cool. So next one is the prepayment of 2,420. So it's a prepaid income reversal. So this is income that we prepaid, i.e. we didn't want to show it because we hadn't earned it and we therefore owed it to whoever gave it to us. However, when we reverse it, we're going to recognize the fact that we have earned that money and we will therefore no longer owe it. So in terms of assets, is that going to increase, decrease, or is there going to be any change? Remember, the previous transaction would have been debit the prepaid, the income account, because we don't want to show it, and then credit deferred income because we haven't earned it as yet. So we're going to make any changes to assets. Increase, decrease, or no change? Now, bit of a tricky one, this one. The answer would be no change because it has absolutely nothing to do with assets. We owed this at the end. We didn't, no one owed us anything. So it's nothing to do with assets. However, the liability of us owing the whoever gave us the money has now gone because we've delivered the use of our office, shall we say. Therefore, we can recognize the fact we've earned this money and we don't have to pay it back because they've had use of it. So we're going to decrease liabilities because this is level 3. You're not expected to get 100% by any means. So we decrease liabilities because we've now earned the money. We're not going to pay them back. They've had use of it. Capital. Now this is a tricky one. Who wants to have a stab at this? Capital, basically, how much of our reserves have we got left over from our income after we've paid our expenses? Is our capital account going to increase, decrease, or no change? So this is income that we are recognizing. Cool. I think the vast majority were correct. It is going to increase because although we got the money last year, we earned it this year. So the amount of profit, so when we release it, the double entry would be debit deferred income, because we want to get rid of that liability, and then credit rental income, because we are now recognizing that we have earned this money. Therefore, it goes straight down to our profit, which then feeds into our capital account. These ones are tricky. When you're doing your revision, things like this, we're not expecting you to get these right every single time. They are tricky. Remember, the pass mark is 70%. If you get 70% on exam day, you're doing really well. So be pleased with that. Next one. Which of the following dates should be entered for this transaction in the ledger account? It's the 31st of March 2000 year end. What would be the date that we do an opening reversal? Emphasis on the opening. To make it easy, we've got A, B, and C. It is a 31st of March 7 year end that we're talking about. No, don't worry about it, Gemma. No, don't worry about it, Gemma. It's all good practice, and it does follow on very well from level 2 when you're doing bookkeeping transactions. Bookkeeping transactions, we do a trial balance, and we stop. And then in this unit, we take that trial balance, adjust it with accruals and prepayments, and produce an ETB in task 5. Now, the majority of people have gone, someone coming in, has gone for C. Now, it's the one we're doing is the 31st of March 2007. And our opening reversal, so that is something that was prepaid last year and we're now reversing it this year, will be on the first day of our financial year. So the first day of our financial year, which ends on the 31st of March 2007, will be the 1st of April 2006. So that will be the first transaction that occurs this year. We reverse our opening adjustments from the prior year. So the same thing will happen with last year's accruals. We accrue it on the 31st of March 2006. When we reverse it, we're going to reverse it on the 1st of April 2006, the first day of the financial year. That's a tricky one. But again, it's a multiple choice one. Do not leave them blank. Anyone work in practice here? Just while you're here. Anyone use Iris accounts preparation software? I know it's a bit of an obscure question, but we used to use Iris accounts preparation software. Marissa, you use Iris? We used to do Iris when in practice, and yeah, and that's the first thing you do when you start a set of accounts in Iris is you run your opening balances. And so you run them and it automatically reverses all the accruals and prepayments from the previous year, and all goes on the first day of the financial year. So, you know, it is real world stuff that people do day in, day out. You know, we're not just making it up, just make people jump through hoops. This is exactly what would happen in Iris, except you wouldn't do it manually. You just click run opening balances and then it does it automatically for you. But yeah, in this, it would debit the deferred income account because we've now earned it, and then credit income, which would then increase profit. Cool. Right, I'm just aware of time. I know I promised everyone would be done by 8. We're now looking at expenses, which is nice. Expenses are nicer than income. And we're looking at admin expense. Let's move that out of my way. So there was an accrual of £620 on the 31st of March 2006. Now remember, we're looking at the 31st of March 2007, so that would be reversed. And as it says here, it's been correctly reversed, and that would happen on the 1st of April 2006. Now the cash book shows its payments of £14,215. That's physically what paid out. Do not touch that. Now this is where it gets tricky. We've then, the third bit of information is there's a bill for admin expenses showing a total cost of £1,995. However, just to bring a bit of colour to the scene, that covers the period for the quarter ended 31st of May 2007. Now, you should know, because it's not going to tell you this, but you should know a quarter, when it says quarter, it says a quarter of a year. A year is 12 months. A quarter of that is 3 months. I'm sure you all know that, not patronizing you, but I just want to stress it is 3 months. And the 3 months ends on the 31st of May. So that includes May. So I like to work backwards. You've got May, then you've got April, and then you've got March. 3 months. We are a March year end. So this is what we want. These two is what we don't want. So although the entire bill, Alexandra's got on the ball here, although the entire bill was received and paid after the year end. So that was received after year end. It will not fall part of the 14,215. We will not have paid that if we've not had the bill. No one in the right mind pays something before they get the bill. And even then you pay it as late as possible afterwards. So what we're going to do is we are going to, we'll do a T account here. We've got space. You see, in your exam, you will have rough paper. Don't take it out with you. You'll get in an awful lot of trouble, but you will have rough paper. And this is for admin. So sometimes there's questions where it says, what's the figure? We're not looking to fill in a T account, but use a T account in your rough paper. So we need, as I said, we need to bring in 1 month's worth of that expense, because none of that expense of 1,995 was paid. It's not included in the 14,215. We need to bring it in. But we're only going to bring in from the 1st of March to the 31st of March, because that's the only bit that relates to our other year end. The other 2 bits, 2 months, April and May, are not in our year end. We don't care about them. They will fall into the next year, and we'll leave them in the next year. So we're going to take £1,995 and times it by 1/3, which gives us, calculator, 1,995 divided by 3, 95, £665. Now, if you do type a number into your calculator like I just did, and it comes out with 661.6666 or something like that, you've probably made an error. AAT likes to make the numbers nice and round. So if you get a number that doesn't come out in a whole number, check your answer. Ideally, check your answer anyway. So £665. So £665 is the figure that we need to bring in for March. We don't care about April and May, not our month, not our financial year, not our problem. So we've been asked to fill it in our figures here. So to complete the following statement, the admin expense account needs an adjustment for, and it's going to be an accrual. And it's going to be £665. It's going to be on the 30th, because we also bring them in on the last day of the financial year, 31st of the 3rd, x7, £665. So Mags has asked us to do it in a T account. Let's do it in a T account. So in the year end 31st of March 2006, there was a closing accrual. So the double entry would have been debit admin, credit accruals. Are we all okay with that? That's what would have happened last year. Debit admin was 620, credit accruals, because there was a bill that's coming in our year that belonged in last year. So when we reverse it, we're going to debit accruals and then credit admin with £620. So of the £14,250 that we paid, £620 of that related to last year. Although we paid for it last year, the expense was correctly accrued for last year, so we're not going to show the expense this year. Then we're going to debit the expense account from the bank. So you've got bank, and that would be, what's that, £14,215. Then, so that was physically what paid out, so that's going to be right. Then we're going to debit this from the accruals. So this would be closing accruals, and that would be 665. And then the other, we go to the P and L. We balance that off. So 14,215 plus 665 that we've accrued and brought in this year. And then we take off the 620 that we accrued for last year. Louise, that's a very common question. The invoice is 3 months, and it covers March, April, and May. That's the quarter end. And it was received and paid for after year end. So none of that, 1,995, belongs in our year end. So April and May, that was received after a year end. We don't care about that. It is only March that we want to bring in. So be very careful. Now, if it was received before the year end and it related to that quarter, we would be prepaying 2 months. But because it was received after, we are accruing that thing. Really important. Get your head around what the year end is and whether it was received in the year or received after the year end. So if this bill was received before the year end, in the same period, we would be prepaying 2. But because the bill was received after the year end, we are accruing 1. Is everyone okay with that? Because that's really important. So we've got 4,200 plus the 665 less the 600, and it gives us 14,260. So that's the T account. That's what, and obviously you'd balance it off, or whatever that is. But the way the question was is opening adjustment would be take off this 620 that belongs in last year. Let's write it properly. So take off the 620, add on the 665 for March, and March alone gives us £14,260. So that is quite tricky. That prorating of the invoice is something that the chief examiner says students do get wrong an awful lot. Be very, very careful of that. I would think that kind of thing is almost certain going to happen. You will have to prorate something, whether that's income, whether it's a prepayment and you want to get rid of 2 months, or it's an accrual, you want to bring in 1 month, or vice versa. It's likely you'll get an invoice that sits over the year end and you'll need to know how much to sort it out. But whether you're bringing it in or you're getting rid of some of it, you need to be very clear. And it goes back to that saying I said, basically you need to use accruals and prepayments to, as a tool to either bring in something that's missing or get rid of something that you don't want. So the last bit, quite sure why that was drawn over the top of my thing, is this bit here, which is a join the dots thing. So show how each of these would appear in the initial trial balance. Drag and drop. So accrued expenses. Dawn's a very good point. Timeline. Do a timeline. This is our year end. Start it here. So you do like, this is our year end. The invoice came here and covers this period. Therefore, this bit here we don't want. Or the invoice came here and covers this period, in which case we want to include this bit here. So yeah. So the last little bit is giving us a nice one to finish on, is would appear in the trial balance. Accrued expenses. So this is the accruals account. Is that going to be a credit or a debit? Everyone's going for that, which is good because it's right. Next one, admin expenses. Is that a debit or a credit? That's the actual expense. That is correct because it's an expense. The next one, interest received. Received, emphasis on received. Everyone's getting these. This is a good question, is this? It's a credit because it's income under click. Credit. Then you've got liability, income, and capital. Last one, payroll liabilities. So this isn't the cost of employing me, say. It is the amount that First Intuition owe to HMRC on the tax and I they take off me. Everyone's correct. That is a credit because we're going to have to pay some money out in the future. So then, what do we think to that? Is that, again, something that we could slowly, carefully work through and get? Yeah, it is tricky, but you've got to remember we're looking for you to do your best. The other thing I was emphasis again on the own figure rule. If you, don't panic. So say you got this bit wrong and you added it. Whatever you do, don't panic. Don't go, oh, I don't know what to do. Just carry on and then add in your closing adjustment. And obviously this figure here is going to be different. It's not going to be right. But you'll lose the mark here, but you'll still get the mark for correctly adding your closing and coming to your admin expense for the year. Don't give up. Don't stop getting marks. It's really important. You just need to get enough marks, and you will make an error occasionally. There's lots of calculations. There's lots going on. We're not looking for perfection. Just you need to be competent. And AAT set a competency at 70%. But as Alexandra said, dates are so important. Get it clear in your head when the year end is. Get clear whether the expense that you're talking about is included in the amount that was paid, in which case the odds are you're going to have to do a prepayment and get rid of it. And if it wasn't included, you need to bring it in. Now, Sarah's asked a very, very good question. In terms of a remote exam, how is this going to work? Well, we don't know is the answer to this, but we do work with other awarding bodies who have already got exams up and running. The way they do it is you're not allowed any working paper. You're not allowed to use your own calculator. You have to use an on-screen calculator, which is a bit annoying, but that's what you give up for the ability to do it at home. Now, if you go into an exam centre, you haven't got that problem. You will have working paper and you can bring your own calculator, provided it doesn't make silly noises and is not capable of storing text. So, yeah, you don't get extra time sitting at home. But I had a meeting with AAT today, actually. Nothing is confirmed, but we're hearing more and more noises that exams are going to be in centre a long time before you can be able to sit them at home in August. That's it. Can use Notepad +C. You will be able to use some form of Notepad, I believe, but it won't be like a Notepad program. It will be one within the exam. No, you will not be allowed to use a stylus. I almost guarantee it, because you will be doing it through your own computer. And those people who do have styluses, like my expensive teaching laptop, will have an advantage compared to those who don't. That is the trade-off you get for sitting your exam in your slippers. You will not be able to have any rough paper. You will not. This is my understanding based on other awarding bodies. AAT have not come out and said. I mean, they might say, hold up the bit of paper you've got in front of you. But I just think that is a dangerous thing in terms of exam security, because like, you've got a whole pad of paper and the first 20 pages are blank, and then you just go, I'll just skip to page 21 where I know I've got all my notes. In terms of loads of good questions, if it's me, I would ideally like to do it in centre. The reason being is you get all the notepad and pen and everything like that. Use your own calculator. You can never don't do any phone like I do, but yeah, use your own calculator. But obviously, and I've had this since the announcement was made on Wednesday, out of the blue. I've had loads of emails about this. There are lots and lots of people who, more than I imagined, who will not be able to go to an exam centre because they've got underlying health issues. They live with someone who's shielding, or they just don't fancy getting it because it sounds a pretty awful disease. So they're going to be sitting at home an awful lot. But in centre, you'll get all that stuff. Now, in terms of cost, I don't know, because obviously the exams have an underlying fee of £49, I believe, and that's what AAT get. On top of that, you go to the centre, they charge you an admin fee, and that varies per centre. If you go to a first intuition centre, you will get, and you're a first intuition student, you will get a significant discount. It'll be damn sight cheaper than going anywhere else. But also remember, you will be invigilated by a person, not a computer. So there is the cost of paying someone to invigilate you even at home. So I don't know what the fee will be, is the answer to that. Will you be able to use multiple monitors? Don't see why not, but don't quote me on that. That's again some of the technical things that I've just not been told us. This time on Tuesday night, I was pretty sure that AAT wouldn't go to do remote exams. They'll just wait for the exam centres to open. First thing on Wednesday morning, I get an email saying exams are going online, and also we're telling students at the same time, and you've got no time to prepare. No warning. Good luck. That was fun. We are hearing, don't quote me on this, but I'm hearing lots and lots of rumours that you will be able to sit exams in centre, if safe, before August. I do not know when, is the answer to that. Well, I did a good job of very quickly reading the information and regurgitating it on Facebook. But yeah, at First Intuition, we like to keep students up to date. We are very proactive with our support. So Robert, we'll be able to rewatch this. In terms of rewatching this, yes, I get an email from Zoom any minute now to say, it's done. Here's the link to send to students. I will do that. In terms of rewatching my Facebook Live on remote exams, you can watch that on our First Intuition AAT Facebook page. If you don't like that page, you should, because we got loads of information on there. It's really funny. Make sure you like that page. We also do a Facebook Live Thursday night, Facebook Live, probably talk about remote exams again. That's all I've done. So I've got remote exams for the last week. Cool. Like I say, we're doing this again next week, 7 o'clock, task 4, a bit more of a tricky one. Dawn, I'm not having a result from level 2 synoptic till August. Can I sit my level 3 exams before then? Yes, not a problem. You can start level 3. You don't need to have passed level 2 synoptic to start level 3. There's no follow-on knowledge anyway. So yeah, you can do level 3, start AVBK, potentially sit inside an exam centre. If not, it'll be August from home. And then we'll come out on the 13th of August with the AAC. Cool. Hope you all enjoyed it. I will see you all hopefully on Thursday night for my Facebook Live. And then I'll see you all this time next week. So a good point. It's bank holiday. No. I might move it to another night, actually. I will think about that because it is a bank holiday. I will think about this. And when I email the recording out tomorrow, I will decide what we're doing. Might do 2 in 1 week. But yeah, I will email you all tomorrow morning and let you know. Cool. Right. Have a good night. Stay safe. And I will see you. Check out our Facebook page, our website. Look at our hub. We have a billion things going on at First Intuition. All the revision sessions you've got access to, they are free. We've got various Facebook Lives. Monday night, Dave and Kelly at 6 o'clock. Hope you enjoyed that. Me, 7 o'clock. Chatterbox Tuesday if you're a First Intuition student on tomorrow, where again we'll be talking about remote exams. There's a student Zoom thing on Wednesday night. Don't know, but yeah, that's going to be really good. I've never been part of that as yet. But yeah, Margaret, don't worry. You know, this is tricky to it. Please keep in touch. Keep in touch with tutor. That's why we're here. Any questions or queries, just let us know. We are here to help. But yeah, I will let everyone know what we're doing next week because forgot about that. Being honest, this last week has been a blur. Cool. Right, everyone have a good evening, and I will see you, I'm sure, at some point over the next week or so. Thank you. Good night.